Welcome, everybody. I'd like to introduce Sean Roberts and Katie Bannister. They're from Which, and they're going to talk to you about 3 steps to getting and keeping supporters active. It's going to be a fairly interactive session at points, so if you're sitting completely alone, you'll probably get asked to move a little closer. So if you would rather do that first, do. Thank you.
Great. Well, thanks very much for coming along. As introduced, my name is Sean Roberts. I am supporters and promotions manager at Which. Actually, I'm supporter mobilisation manager of Which. As of 3 days ago, they just changed my job title. I've been at Which for just over 2 years now. Prior to that, I used to work in politics and campaigning and elections. So kind of quite a long experience in campaigning that I've sort of brought to not-for-profit campaigning at Which. My colleague.
My name's Katie. I've been working at Which for about 2 years now. My title doesn't mean anything, so I like to just say email, anything email. I used to work for the NSPCC doing digital fundraising, and my first time campaigning was actually with Which, and it's been pretty good, pretty fun.
That's exactly what you're supposed to say. Which, most people are kind of like, before I went to Which, I was aware there was a magazine that reviewed lots of products kind of thing. And that is one big bit of Which, but the other bit of Which is the campaign side. It's actually the charity side. All the profits from the magazine basically fund the charitable side of the organisation, which is where we sit. Our team, the supporter engagement team, is just over about 2.5 years old. I was, I think, the first hire onto that team after the boss. And our mission is to build the Which supporter base. We had about 100,000 supporters at that time, 2.5 years ago. We've just hit the 650,000 supporter mark. We have quite an ambitious goal of hitting 1 million supporters in about just over a year and a half's time, I think. It's a really kind of part of the sort of supporter engagement is a thing that the organisation's really backing in a big way because they think it can make a big difference to kind of campaigns, the effectiveness of campaigns, and just grow the organisation. And so far, so good.
And it's also just not about grabbing any supporter, it's also about keeping them active. They don't want us just to get an email address, they actually want us to get a supporter who's doing stuff with us. Yeah.
So, we're going to talk today about getting and keeping supporters active. It's going to be a bit of a workshop. If you've got any questions at any time, just stop us, please do. But there's going to be a couple of exercises where we're going to get you to go and do things amongst yourselves, report back to us. But let's kick off. So, 3 steps. Okay, so first up, press the right button. Wouldn't it be nice if all supporters were like Pluto? Pluto's my dog. Ready to play, wanting to please, unconditional love, dependent on you. I didn't put the word obedient in there because I really didn't think I could pull that off with my dog, but really is always engaged. If you're, very little work to get Pluto involved in something. But if I do want to get him his attention is a very, very simple thing as well. It's called a tennis ball. And with that tennis ball, he will follow anything. He will chase it, he will do anything. And, that's great, it's wonderful. But actually, most supporters aren't quite like Pluto, as much as we wish they were. And mostly, supporters are a lot more like this. Busy lives, friends and families, different priorities. On lists of multiple organisations, loads of distractions. And particularly when you're dealing with people largely on email, inboxes are crazy these days. One of the first things we did in my first year at Which was do a big sort of survey of supporters. One of the questions we asked them, what other organisations are you involved with? And this list just came pouring out, and you just start thinking, my goodness, your inbox, what must it be? And to sort of stand out and get people's attention, that is a huge challenge. And just because there are supporters, they're probably your supporters and your supporters as well. Our sort of mission really was, how can we find effectively the version of a tennis ball or variants of a tennis ball for those really busy supporters that get their attention more often and gets them involved in campaigning. That's the reason behind this.
Cool. So what getting engagement right can mean. So this is how our support base has changed over the past year or so. Past year. So you can see the total supporters and their actions. So most supporters had one action. It was the action that they signed the petition, and that's them forever. You know, they're not doing much after. So as you can see, their actual supporter actions have grown. So they're doing more than just signing the petition. They're getting involved with other things, sharing and doing other bits. So 2 years ago, an average supporter would take 2 or 3 actions a year. Last year, the average supporter took 3 or 4 actions. This year, we're hoping the average supporter would take 5 or 6 actions a year. So really getting them engaged. Okay, so how have we done that? That's the million-dollar question, really. So what your data can tell you. So we're hoping everyone's database can at least tell them these simple things. When a supporter joined, what actions they've taken, their open rates, their click rates. It tells you a lot about their behaviour, what they're doing. And from that criteria, we were actually able to build these segments. I don't know if anyone went to Sean's session earlier about really segmenting your audience, how you approach them. It's so different to how they actually act on email. So you can see our hot active supporters, they're doing 4+ actions in a quarter. So they're really engaged with every email. They're actually waiting for our email to arrive in their inbox. I'm not bragging, but they are. Straight down to, we also have a group of dormant supporters that haven't opened an email in 12 months. So, you know, that they need a lot of attention as well.
Actually, has anyone got this kind of thing in their organisation?
Yeah.
Yeah. Useful? Yeah. I mean, certainly for us, you know, just being able to sort of divide people up and just like knowing which are our most engaged people is just such a great thing, and also actually who are our least engaged people, because that also tells us quite a bit as well. And you know, quite often in the past it would be, oh, we're just going to send this email to everybody. You know, everyone's going to get this. That's quite rare for us now. We actually sort of usually will start with actually looking at each of these audiences at the beginning with a test group and see how an issue plays. And quite often with like the cold supporters, we're trying to sort of make it as, you know, effectively bring down the barrier of doing the first action. Whereas perhaps hot supporters, we can, as Katie says, their eyes already on the tennis ball. We can actually ask them quite a lot and quite a lot more often as well. And it's just really useful to have. Now, how do we get this as well? It's basically researching our audience. That first survey that we did, one of the things that came out of it is, people seem to love, people love being asked for their opinions. And if you think about, the kind of people that support campaigns, they're even more likely to be asked, want to be asked for their opinions. And we have a sort of really big survey program that's just an absolutely ongoing process. So yes, we do a big sort of one-off survey each year, but in between that, we're always asking supporters their views on different issues, and what kind of social networks they might use, as you can see.
There's also so many free tools out there now that will just let you take this data and download it and associate it with the people who are signing up.
Yeah. We asked some things about, so there's a question about fraud and scams. I think I'm probably giving too much away, which are going to be launching a campaign of fraud and scams soon. So before we've launched, we've actually asked supporters their views on the subject. Got some experiences out of them. It's actually shaped and influenced our campaign. Which should be our priorities. But all this information just sort of feeds in to sort of our knowledge and helps us engage people better. This stuff is all free. This is just stuff we design ourselves, produce ourselves, and send out using whether it's in an email, using SurveyMonkey. So yeah, there's a bit of a cost for SurveyMonkey, but not. We also did a much bigger project on segmentation with the polling agency Populus. And this was actually about behavioural segmentation, and this is this is what we've come out with from that. You'll see some characters appear on our behavioural segmentation. And there's a reason for having characters, because if we actually put pictures of who the people are, they kind of all look a little bit similar. They're in their 60s or late 50s. And just having a picture of what a segment might look like doesn't always tell you that many things. And what we have is come up with these personalities, TV personalities. So the Jeremy Clarkson segment, which love complaining about stuff, have very low respect for like organisations to fix things, really active campaign supporters on consumer issues. We love them. Very want to get a better deal for them and their family. But it's very useful. We have our Ron Swanson. Who's watched Parks and Recreation here? Only a handful. Okay. Well, Ron Swanson is this amazing character, but he believes that everyone should look after their own problems. You know, government shouldn't help people. Organisations, you should just take things for yourself. We actually have a segment of supporters that kind of have that view. We are this group. When we ask them why do you campaign, they kind of sort of almost said, "Well, we don't." And how have you become one? But they're there. Really interesting. But fundamentally, they've crossed our path probably on a campaign that had something to do with financial security.
Probably VW.
Yeah, it could be one of them. We have a group of Emily Group. She's from Coronation Street. I don't watch that. I didn't come up with all the names. But she's actually our biggest group of supporters. They're basically community workers. They volunteer in for local charities. You know, really brilliant kind of people. Caring and concerned. Like to get hands-on. Love practical solutions. Dislike bureaucracy. Really interesting group. And then we have our Lisa Simpson segment. You Lisa? Yeah, you are. 60% of these say they read The Guardian, either online or offline, and we weren't really aware there's that many Guardian readers still out there. But they're amazing, you know, all tend to be quite comfortably well off, but really strong opinions, really passionate about, you know, changing the world, which is a really fun segment to deal with. And then our last segment is our Charlie from Casualty, which is kind of retired professionals. And you know, they very much take leadership roles now they're retired and very professional, get things done, lots of respect for organisations. But these 5 segments all came out of this big research project with Populus. Incredibly useful to think about supporters, but probably the most important bit of this is the bit on top, because the bit on top is the shared values. This, you know, valuing honesty above all else, motivated to tackling injustice. Those of you that were in my session earlier, kind of the most valuable thing that came out of the segmentation work that we did and understanding supporters is that we used to think at Which that people became Which supporters because they wanted to save money because we're a consumer organisation. And it's true, some people do, you know, come in for us for that. But we found, you know, through our testing and our research, the much, much more powerful motivator was about injustice. And where there was injustice, even if it's something that didn't affect them, they would be much, much more likely to take an action on it and do something about it if we could show them the injustice, rather than maybe as something that was a personal gain to them. We didn't know this when we started the project. It was almost a surprising thing to find, but it's a really positive thing for us, and it has changed the way we communicate with supporters and the way we do these things.
And we've done a lot of testing on our emails, just the way we write things, like whether we go with the pre-release or we go with like tackling the injustice, and it really does work. It's really worth testing.
So that's our first bit. That's our first step. And given that we've now been talking at you for a good 10, 15 minutes, we'd like you to do a little thing in groups. So in your lines, we'd like to think something's going to come apparent about some of my sort of, you know, my tastes in movies and things like that going to come through from these sessions. We'd like you to, in groups, think about the characters that you've got amongst your supporter base. You know, what do your supporters look like? What kind of demographics do they have? You know, do they all have the same motivation? You know, are they all kind of like, you know, joining you for one specific reason and with one specific value? I don't know. Everywhere is different. And then what would you like to know more about? You know, what would make your job as campaigners easier if you knew about your supporters? And you know, what can you find out to improve the support experience? So what we'll do is have probably 5 to 10 minutes. We'll see how it's getting along in groups, and then we'll ask someone from each group to sort of feed back some of the things that you've discussed. Okay? Cool. Go for it. Right, because we need to move on, because we're being videoed, we need someone to, if someone would like to come and give feedback, they actually have to come down here and do it so they can so they can actually have you on camera. Are there any volunteers that might want to feedback from your group to maybe answer some of these questions, some of the things that you're looking to find out about supporters or help you to find out about supporters?
So my question was less around the present supporter base, but the relationship of profiling and segmenting the present database based on a notion of where your future support may come from. I've just come from an organisation that spent far much more time looking at potential supporters and profiling them and having those personalities. and also appreciating that as an organisation we didn't have enough money to grow a market. We were entering a competitive space with others. And I just wondered if there's anything you can tell us about the relationship of that with the internal work that you might do with people already with you.
Those good questions, aren't they? Anyone who becomes a new supporter, which we'll cover in a second, will get a welcome journey. And a key part of that welcome journey is a survey. And it's actually got some of the same questions that we asked our existing supporters like a year ago, or a few months ago. And so we actually have this group that's kind of separate, and so we're actually looking as week by week as new people come in, and just looking to see where they're different. Simple as that, and really kind of keep an eye on it. And what's interesting, our newer supporters are definitely younger, definitely more active on Facebook than the older supporters. WhatsApp was one of the things that's popped up. Much higher usage than Twitter on new people, and we don't do anything on WhatsApp at this stage, but it's definitely something we're looking at. And touch wood, the injustice side of things is actually stronger amongst our newer supporters than it is from the kind of older supporters. But you've got to keep your eye on this kind of thing. And I think sometimes, particularly in campaigns, sometimes a really, really successful campaign can bring people in that aren't necessarily really core to your cause. So we have one of our most popular campaigns is on nuisance phone calls, because everybody hates nuisance phone calls. And people will sign that petition and not necessarily feel a deep connection with which. In fact, the Ron Swansons I mentioned earlier, a number of them, I'm certain, will have come from our nuisance phone calls campaign. And they're different to our normal audience. And, with those guys, again, you just have to sort of say, can we move them to being, good value campaign supporters? But if not the end of the world. But it's always changing. We always have to keep an eye on it. Okay. Let's move on to step 2, because we're on a very strict timetable here. So once we have the knowledge, because this is like 2 years' work condensed into a 50-minute session, it's about implementing some of the knowledge we've got with creative ideas, and starting off with welcome journeys. That's you, yes.
So, first engagement with your company, what welcome journey is doing for engagement. So, does your welcome journey have a specific objective? Are you just putting them into random emails, or are you actually sending a welcome journey at all? So the main purpose of our welcome journey is to avoid the hardest part of my job, the job I hate the most, is dealing with dormant supporters. And you might ask, what is there to do with the beginning part of our relationship to the end of it? How do they become dormant? So if we look at our dormants at the moment, so it's a lot of people, 56,000 people, but that is only 8% of our list. So we look at what do they have in common? What is it about them that makes them dormant? What are we doing wrong? So we looked at, and the only thing we found was that they've only taken one action. So they only did that one thing they came on to our group for. They became a subscriber by signing a petition, and then that was it. They were just gone forever. So our objective became clear for our welcome journey. Supporters must take their second action on a welcome journey. They need to do something. They can't become dormant. We need to, as soon as they know that they've signed a petition with which, we need them to do something else with which. So I've got some stats. Brace yourselves. No, I've tried to make it fun. So our welcome journey, this was done a year ago, the first test. So we had a group of people not on the welcome journey and people who just went into our main sends, which is what they were doing before I joined which. First group, people who were on the welcome journey, received an email every 4 days, specific emails made for people coming into the organisation, and a control group, people getting our regular sends, just to see how a different percentage of the group were taking a second action. So the results, once the welcome journey was over, we looked at the percentage who had taken a second action. So 120% increase of people actually taking a second action. So those people are less likely to become dormant because they've been able to do a second action. They don't seem to do second actions and then become dormant. They seem to take a second action and take another and take another. But once they've only taken that one action and not done anything, that's the trouble. Okay, so now that was done a year ago. Now we're refining what works. So if you take this example, this was the first round of welcome journeys. This email 5 had a click to open for 21%, so that's the amount of people who opened the email went on to click the email. It was fine. It was praised within the company. They loved it. They loved bragging about how big we were, how great Which was. And then I made a new email 5, quite simple, about senior bankers being faced criminal charges. A lot of people would like to get involved with that. The click to open went to 47.5. So by making it a poll, by making it really engaging, they were more involved with answering the email. And also, it went to a survey and 63% completed the survey. So by my maths, which isn't that great, so more people actually completing the survey than clicking this email. So at that stage, we're having people clicking on polls and they're doing surveys, getting them much more involved. So now you have their attention.
Cool. By the way, our welcome journey, what the stat we put up, we've actually improved a lot in that sort of 12 months since then as well. So,
so the average group of people is about 40% of the group taking a second action, just by refining what they're doing. Yes, hello. Yep. You might need to come forward.
Yeah. You know, anyone wants to ask a question, they've got to come down here and do it. It's like... Look at the camera, ask the question, and then we'll answer it.
So yeah, just a quick one. In terms of your welcome journey, what does that kind of equate to? Is that 5 emails,
yes.
10 emails?
So it's 5 emails, 4 days between each email.
Yeah.
Yes, hello.
Another question for the shameless pitch that I'm doing a workshop teaching on welcome journeys tomorrow and Tuesday. So
I might join you on that. Because, I use Blue State.
It's kind of I think the interesting thing on welcome journeys, and that email that Katie put up, was often welcome journeys are seen as like, oh, it's great, we can tell you all about our organisation. And actually, they might have just signed up because they support you on one campaign, and that's possibly not what they're after. And what you want to be able to do is engage them further in your organisation. I think there's a good phrase, I think they might have even had up this morning on one of the marriage equality session, was show, don't tell. And we show people we're a campaigning organisation with kind of emails that we send on that welcome journey, rather than going that email that you saw up there a couple of minutes ago, which used to be, we do this amazing work every year. We try to show it now. Anyhow.
Well, I see it like a first date. You don't want to turn up and someone's just bragging about themselves constantly. You want them to engage with you. You want them to ask questions. You don't just want to talk to a brick wall.
So this is how we always used to do our campaigns. We'd send an email out. Hi there, there's this really important issue. Please sign up petitions. Please take our survey. That kind of thing. Just really traditional arts. And it always worked pretty well. But that sort of the first stage email is kind of quite a high bar. You're asking people instantly to sort of take a survey. That's what is that? How long is that going to take? And we wondered if we can get click rates up. And so what we do now is we send an email that sort of has, effectively the last bit, has a really, really simple question. The kind of question that you just go instantly yes or no to it without even thinking, because it just follows on. So, the government and the regulators must get a grip on the big 6 energy companies. Do you agree? Yes, and the click rates off this are so much higher. And
so it's essentially pulling survey questions into the email instead of waiting just to answer the survey.
And we see click-to-open rates with this kind of thing 70-80% at times.
Yeah.
So much more engaging. But how you think, oh, it's just that clickbait stuff again? And yes, it is. But what we do is follow it up. And we spent a lot of time. In fact, we still do this. Is meeting up with other charities, other organisations, and finding out their best practice, sharing our best practice, and learning things. And it was Save the Children who were told us about some tests they did about daisy chaining. So they had a group of supporters where they had sort of said, sign the petition, and half the people that signed the petition were then instantly asked to email their MP, and the other half were kind of thanked, and then they emailed them the following week to see, would you email your MP? and like, it was something like twice as many people, even 3 times as many people, did the action when it was followed on compared to the ones where you just left it and went to them a week later. And it's like, once you've got their attention, is you want to keep it, and that's our sort of theory now. So we'll have an email with a poll in it, and then it will go to a survey, and then it will possibly even go on to something else as well. So
Here's the example.
So here's our poll email. Really short, really simple. We used to have it with images in. We tested it without images, and we found way more people were doing it. Because, if that yes, no, those buttons can appear in above the fold, it makes a colossal difference to the number of people taking the actions and the engagement from it. This is the kind of survey we'll go through. We try and keep we have different types of surveys I've mentioned earlier, whether we use SurveyMonkey or this is in our CRM, in BSD. I think Engaging Networks does exactly the same kind of thing. Just a simple sign-up form and a few simple questions, and off they do. And thank you page, and the thank you page, that's actually linking then off to our community website as well, where there'll be a discussion on that issue. So it's kind of like at every stage we're trying to sort of move you up. And the moment they start clicking along that path, they really kind of keep going. Most people don't sort of fall off, which is fun.
So obviously the proof's in the numbers. You can say that people who agree to take the survey, they're more likely to actually take the survey than people who feel like they've been tricked into taking a survey. So here's a traditional ask. Average click-through rate of 45%, and then, completion rate of 80%, that's great. So we looked at how many openers were actually completing everything we asked them to do, and it was about 36%. But if we compare that to the new ask, 75% click-through, it's great to tell your bosses that. Only 74% completed the survey, but we have to remember that they didn't know they were going to take a survey, but they're still willing to do it. It's not like people are dropping off. We riled them up and we said, we want to know your thoughts, and then they actually want to give it. They want to tell us more information. So if you can see the openers then completing 56%. So, it's an extra action they're kind of taking, but they're willing to do it. Okay, so this is an email I did last week. Quite happy with this. There was an announcement from Virgin Trains. They were going to do a new delay repayment scheme for our trains campaign. We have a whole bunch of signers, about 45,000 signers. Only about 5,000 were Virgin Train users. So it was easy to update them, to tell them, good news, share this. But I was hesitant about telling the other signers, hooray for Virgin Trains, but not so hooray for you. So we had to find a way to get them engaged, to tell them about the issue, but then how do we get them to do something about it? So we thought about the question, do you think it's time for your train company to make it simpler and clearer? So this did quite well, but then we decided to actually make it really personalised. So now it's Southeastern to make it simpler, Great Western Railway, C2C. So having that personalised content, it pushed it from 50% click to open to 70% just by having their company, their train name in the question. And also, it's train talk, so it's not the funnest thing to talk about. So we were really quite happy with that result. So actually having this personalised, engaging content really works well.
So, we'll have to probably be with the sort of time. Again, in your groups, think about, let's have a chat about welcome journeys. Quick survey, who has a welcome journey? Put your hands up. Yeah, it's a decent number. Who thinks they should have a welcome journey? Put your hand up. Oh, yeah, good. So, what I'd like you to do is, in those groups, is think about what would make a good welcome journey, a really engaging welcome journey for a new supporter coming into one of your organisations. What are the key elements? How will you get them to engage? And we'll have about 5 minutes to sort of talk through that, and then we've got
10 minutes altogether.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, well, about
Couple
4
minutes.
So off you go, have a chat. So we haven't really got time to sort of feedback on that one, but hopefully it's been a useful starter of a discussion about how welcome journeys could work.
And also you can grab us at the pub later if you want to keep talking about welcome journeys.
Yeah, we can go on for a long time about these things. So let's move on to step 3 of, so we've learnt a bit about our supporters, we put that learning into action, tried out different things. you know, things to remember here is like no one ever gets it right first time, and I can tell you, you know, a bit of a welcome journey is better than no welcome journey. You know, it's a step in the right direction, and the next step really is about learning and improving. And you know, I can tell you, it's nice actually. I think there's going to be a few sessions this week about failure, and you know, one of the things when we did this work at Which, one of the first things we did was like, let's look at our old database. Let's get someone in to look at our data and see if there's patterns of behaviour in our supporters. You know, do people always sign? You know, they signed an energy campaign, so they always get engaged with other things about that same issue. And you know, we put a lot of work into getting our data out, getting it into a format this company could look at it and analyse it, and no patterns at all, none whatsoever. I'd say a complete waste of time. It wasn't a complete waste of time because that closed off and many avenues of ways that we could have gone down in terms of like thinking about how our supporters behave. So I think it was actually really good. And Change.org, and obviously Change.org people here, they have a great approach to this. They actually have what they call a festival of failure, where they sort of get the team together and talk about something they've done that didn't work, and they celebrate it. And I think that they have a thing where it's like, let's not do that again, but we should always be looking to try. And it's always that thing, if you haven't failed, then you probably haven't tried anything new. So when we look at our, this is you, come, there we go, sorry.
Oh, yep, so it's just reviewing and evaluate regularly. So, I can't say that. As we spoke about it before, email 5, just improving click rates, improving open rates. As you can see, on this example, we changed where we put the survey in the welcome journey. So originally it was email 3, we moved it to email 1. And for every 1,000 supporters receiving the email, an average of 128 were completing the survey. As compared to before, only 42 were doing it. So, you know, that's triple completion on that. It's quite great. Also, we were testing email content. I need to change it. Email content, just having like reduction in paragraphing can make such a difference. As you can see, 24% click-through, 62% click-through. For every 10,000 supporters that open your email, that's an extra 3,780 taking the action. It's just incredible, just differences you can make by testing different content.
This one really blew us away. Literally, we took one paragraph out of the email, but it was because it was talking about one subject, and this one paragraph went off and talked about something else slightly. It was related, but then went kind of back to the end, and we're like, I'm sure this will improve it a little bit, but wow. But you only do this when you try, and when you test more than one thing.
And finally?
Oh, and finally, it's me again. Yeah. And, you know, there's two sides to all this. Us guys as campaigners, here's why you should love this, is because it's an adventure. When we set out to understand our supporters, we had no real idea, you know, where it would take us. We were kind of quite open, we had some preconceived ideas, but they all got thrown out, you know, the moment we start getting the data in. And, you know, it's wonderful sense of like, you know, I wonder if this will work, I wonder if that will work, I wonder how they'll react to these things. And every bit of extra knowledge you can get helps you do your job better. And, you know, there's nothing, you know, when we used to send out emails occasionally, and you send an email and you can see like no one's clicking on it, and, you know, it's like 10% click to open, and you're like, oh, you know, how does that feel? And then we send something out now, we get, you know, 75% click to open. We feel better. You know, you feel like, yes, that worked. I've made a difference. That's
and your
good.
bosses will love it. Just saying.
Yeah. And about your bosses, you know, this is please say with his tennis ball. I think there's a lot of this, 'cause for some organisations, they almost feel it's a risk to experiment and a risk to kind of like go and try these kind of engagement approaches out and change perhaps the way that you're talking about yourself as an organisation. But just imagine you could double, you know, the way to say to your boss, imagine you can double the number of people arriving at a donate page or a volunteer page. And that's the kind of thing that we can do now with this approach, where we've got the right kind of ask because we've tailored it to the people, that, you know, the understanding we've got about the people. And it's really kind of interesting. And all it takes is a willingness to sort of just try it out. And as I say, it's not even, you know, a big cost associated with a lot of this. That's it. Any questions? With the no questions.
have to be late.
Catch us anytime, and actually our emails are there. If you want to catch us in London for a drink at any point, we're always really happy to come and do that. We have wine and what's it sessions with other charities and that kind of stuff. And if there's a group of you from a charity that wants to come and meet our team, we're always quite sociable and really happy to have a chat because we want to learn from you and hopefully get some stuff from us. We're here till tomorrow evening. We'll be in the bar tonight. But yeah, thank you very much for coming along and.